Hi and welcome to Zed Games. Recorded live at 4ZZZ Studios in Brisbane and broadcast nationally over the Community Radio Network, Zed Games brings you the latest gaming news, reviews and interviews from across Australia and around the world.
Greetings, welcome once again to another exciting episode of Zed Games, heard on Triple Z in Brisbane, thanks to the magic of FM broadcasting, and around Australia for the benefit of humankind, thanks to the Community Radio Network. We are Australia's number one awesome, totally cool gaming radio program, and my name is Razor at the Captain's Helm for another episode. I am joined by my friends and awesome co-hosts. Firstly, the excellent Mr. Jody McGregor.
Hi, Ray.
And the lovely Miss Candy Payne.
Oh, lovely. How awesome was that first song? Holy shit, that was so much fun. That just made my day go from like 0 to awesome. It was so good.
Okay, first up on the program this week, Jody, you have been playing a PC game.
Yes, I have. I've been playing a game called Blockstorm, which is a first-person shooter with the visual style of Minecraft.
Excellent. We have a special guest coming in later as well. His name is Scott Dickson. He's a filmmaker, and he has put out a film called Rodney Fickle Online Athlete, which debuts in Brisbane tomorrow. So we'll be chatting to him all about that film. But first, let's kick this episode off with the weekend gaming news headlines, Miss Candy Payne.
Thank you, Razor. Servers for Age of Empires Online were officially shut down earlier this week. The multiplayer version of the influential real-time strategy series launched in 2011 as a free-to-play title. Microsoft have not announced plans for any further Age of Empires games as yet.
Are you sad about that, Jody?
Well, I didn't really bother with the online version because I like Age of Empires, but I don't want it as an MMO. I just want to play it, with my friends who are in the same room as me and not internet jerks.
Yep.
Internet jerks.
I'm a huge fan of the original first two games, Age of Empires 1 and 2. Didn't bother with number 3, but they have a special place in my gaming heart. Real good times with Age of Empires.
Yeah, they were classics. Do you remember in the second one, you would send your shepherdesses out to guard the sheep, and then if you clicked on a sheep, they would just walk up, and little Bo Peep would straight up murder a sheep for you.
Yeah.
That was surprising
awesome.
The first time it happened.
Sweet. We're also welcoming Alana to the studio now. She's just arrived. Hey, Alana.
Hi. Fashionably late, but right on time. A new Underworld game is in development. Titled Underworld Ascension, it's being handled by new studio Other Side Entertainment. The studio is staffed by team members that worked on the original game, including creative director Paul Neurath.
Did you play the original, Jody?
Yeah, I did. There were a couple of them. I only ever played the first one, but it was sort of a big leap ahead for first-person games, but it was a first-person RPG, and then sort of first-person shooters sort of took over the genre. But having a first-person dungeon-crawling game that was real-time rather than turn-based like the old ones was really neat back in the 90s.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of modern games that owe its roots to that sort of thing, right?
Yeah, we've seen games like
Oblivion.
Malevolence and Legend of Grimrock even doing that sort of old-school version of the first-person RPG.
Australian servers have just been opened for Blizzard's new multiplayer online battle arena game called Heroes of the Storm. The game is currently in a closed alpha state, but it's good news for Australians who are interested in playing the game when it finally comes out. No release date has been given at this stage.
Sweet.
You're the Blizzard fan, right, Ray?
Yeah.
Am I?
Well, you're the one who
yeah.
plays Hearthstone, so
Yeah.
I assume you're the guy who's going to be interested in Heroes of the Storm.
Yeah. Not terribly.
No?
I tried so hard to get into League of Legends and Dota, which are very similar to this, but just couldn't.
No.
Yeah, apparently there's like a huge deep strategy to it, and it's an incredibly complex and deep game, but I just couldn't get over the learning curve.
They reckon the learning curve of Dota 2 is about 50 hours.
Yeah, that's too much for me.
That's a steep learning curve.
I didn't get anywhere near that, so I guess, yeah.
I played it for 40 minutes.
Good effort, team. Riot Games, the developers of the insanely popular League of Legends game, has disabled their public chat rooms due to the proliferation of scammers, spammers, and offensive community members. In a statement posted on their website, Riot advised that additional user functions and tighter moderation will be implemented before the chat rooms are reopened. Ooh.
Internet jerks.
Again with the jerks.
A few weeks ago, Alana and I were speculating about why these sort of games have so many jerks in them. And I'm thinking that it's because just player base, the sheer number of people that played, like there's like 50 million players. I think that just even if there's 1% of those people that are idiots.
Wouldn't you say it's like, well, if there's an average intelligence, then you have to realize that like 50% of people are below that, right? So like 50% of people are dumb or jerks.
I'm not sure that's how averages work.
It's not quite.
Or statistics.
Not quite, but, you know, like, there's got to be around, I reckon 30% of the people in the world could be like safely classified as jerks. Maybe more.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's all up to just speculation, I guess. I don't have any hard data on that.
Look, it's also that it's competitive, and people automatically get angry when something is competitive and they're not succeeding.
Yeah, that reason I think is a good one. It is a competitive game, therefore there's going to be hostility, I guess. Some people take it too far.
Yes, that's what, give or take 30%, right? We're all on. We're totally on top of this percentage data crap.
Yeah. I've done a bunch of surveys.
Yeah, I've read some shit. And lastly, new DLC for Watch Dogs arrives this week. The new content expands the game's single-player mode, adding 3 new missions, new weapons, and new perks. Woohoo!
Sweet.
Yeah, that's good. I'm halfway through, so new stuff's good.
Yep. Enjoying the game, Candy?
I am. Yeah, I'm enjoying it more for all the little side bits. Like, I get totally distracted trying to play drinking games and be like, yes.
I'm pretty sure that's what we said in our review the entire time.
Yeah.
Right? Was that we like the side bits better than the actual game.
Oh, yeah. I just spent an hour and a half playing, like, chess strategy paths, and I was like, oh, shit, I've just totally, like...
What act are you
fallen
on?
Off. Towards the end of 2.
Okay, 2 was awful.
Oh,
the end of
excellent.
3 is where it gets really good.
Oh, good.
Ish.
Good-ish.
Better, perhaps.
Yeah, I'm just enjoying, like, chasing graffiti and shooting monsters and stuff right now, so all good.
I can sum up my love for this game in 2 words. Spider Tank.
Oh, man, I liked the psychedelic flower trip. Whee! Flowers! It was just relaxing.
Hello, this is Rick Dalton, and you're listening to Zed Games.
Hey, you're listening to Zed Games. We just heard from Chipzel. That track was called We Knew. Also have to back announce the song that we heard at the very top of the show. That was To Yoon with 24/7. Now, Jody, you have been playing a PC game called Blockstorm. It hasn't been officially released yet, but it's in early access.
Yeah, that's right. So you can buy it and play it now. Blockstorm is, if you imagine the way Minecraft looks, that voxel-based cubes everywhere, that very blocky art style, and then basically put Counter-Strike or that sort of online first-person shooter in it. It's sort of Minecraft with machine guns. But you can still do the things you can do in Minecraft. You can still dig. So, like, as well as having like a pistol and a rifle or a shotgun and some grenades, you have a shovel. So you can dig up blocks and make trenches and tunnels and dig away at the enemy's cover. And then you've got blocks which you can put in the world, just like in Minecraft, to make your own walls or cover or stairways to run around and gun people down on.
That sounds fantastic. But how big is the world?
There are different maps of different sizes. Most of the ones that I've played on have not been huge. They're actually pretty small.
How many players on each map?
16.
Wow.
Which is sort of an issue because there aren't very many people playing Blockstorm. It's the kind of game... See, there are 3 different modes you can play. There's Deathmatch, which is everybody for themselves, Team Deathmatch, and an Assault mode, which I assume is kind of like a gaining ground thing, but I don't know because I can't play it. There aren't enough people on there to actually make an Assault game work. You can really only play Team Deathmatch. I've only ever seen 2 servers going that I can actually, reach from here in Australia that have people on them. So it's Team Deathmatch
change when it releases.
or nothing. Hopefully, but we have seen before that indie games based on online multiplayer sometimes really struggle to get that sort of minimum number of people to attract other people. There was a neat-looking game called Gun Monkeys, which was some competitive 2-player thing where, like, you're a monkey with a gun and you jump around shooting another monkey with a gun.
I already
You'd think
love
that
it.
would sell itself. But they had to go through like huge loops trying to get enough people actually playing it to attract a consistent player base. Like if you logged on to Gun Monkeys and nobody else was playing it, they would give you a free copy to give to a friend straight away, just to try to get. They were so desperate for more people to play it, and I suspect that Blockstorm is going to struggle to get more people to play it because it doesn't really have a super unique selling point. Because Minecraft with guns is something that has already been done by a couple of other games. There's a game called Guncraft, which has as its selling point that it's Minecraft with guns and you can make your own guns. And there's one called Ace of Spades, which I've played, that's more of a World War I kind of thing.
But being able to dig tunnels and trenches and stuff in a first-person shooter sounds really cool to me. That doesn't sound like something I've ever played before.
Yeah, it does make it very different when you have to look at the map, not as a bunch of obstacles in your road, but as a thing that you can reconfigure while you're playing it, which I think the game modes should support, but Team Deathmatch doesn't. It's just about whoever gets to the arbitrary number of kills first, whereas Ace of Spades had this neat mode where it was sort of capture the flag. You'd need to get the enemy's intel and then get it back to your base. But that intel would be on a floating platform in the sky. So you would have to build like a huge staircase up to it to grab it before you could get it back down. So you might be up there hiding behind some blocks, sniping down at people to cover some guy who is desperately building to get up there, and then they get shot and they fall over and you're stuck alone in the middle of the sky. It was pretty fun. And
Were there monkeys?
there were no monkeys in Ace of Spades,
I'm not
tragically.
sold.
But what are the actual shooting mechanics like?
The interesting thing about them is that the weapons have weight, and I don't just mean that there's recoil when you shoot a dude. You actually have a loadout that you can alter, and the heavier the weapons you choose, the slower you move. So a bog standard rifle as your primary weapon is light but rubbish. A decent shotgun or a rocket launcher will be much heavier and slow you down. And the lightweight pistol is rubbish, but you can pick an Uzi or a 12-gauge shotgun that is slightly better.
Did you find that most people were picking rocket launchers anyway?
No, I found most people were picking machine guns. The sort of
So is
like
that middle?
Yeah, the middle MP50 thing was the thing that everybody went for because it seemed pretty overpowered compared to like being faster but having a useless gun.
This is very interesting. What other games have put weight into guns?
Mainly RPG style games where you have a backpack.
Not to that
Not to that
level
level.
of effectiveness. Like in
Yeah.
Fallout 3, you can fit, 100 kilos in your backpack before you suddenly move very slowly. It doesn't
Yeah.
vary.
Yeah,
It's actually quite impressive.
I was just thinking that, like, in Watch Dogs, I've currently got, like, a grenade launcher, 5 IEDs, and plus, like, mobile IEDs, and, and then
Just
I've
keeps
got
all
a
in that
pistol,
one
a
pocket.
shotgun, and a sniper rifle, and a couple of sticky bombs, and, like, it just goes on, and I'm like,
And a phone that never runs out of battery.
These are all just hanging out of my back pockets, I presume. I don't know,
Yeah.
but I've been running just as fast. Like, I find that's their selling point.
That is something
Big guns
different
slow
about
you
it, yeah.
down. Maybe not.
Yay!
Yay.
How many weapons can you have on you at once?
You can have 2 weapons plus grenades and your shovel and an infinite supply of blocks to build with. They don't weigh you down.
Are the blocks just like dirt?
They're just cubes. They're not actually anything. So the amount you dig doesn't affect the amount you can build with,
It
which
would
is
be
how
cool if you had
Guncraft
to, like-
worked. That was their selling
See, now
point.
I want to play Guncraft.
Yeah, well, Guncraft did have a slightly different thing where you could build, say, a tower and then memorize it. And then as soon as you collected enough blocks to build that same tower in another match, you would just click on whatever shortcut you'd created for it, and bingo bango, that tower would appear. So that
Bingo
was...
bango. It's not a saying we've heard recently, Joey.
I'm going to bring that back.
Yeah, groovy.
But there's nothing comparable to that in Blockstorm. It doesn't have the things that Ace of Spades had, and it doesn't have the things that Guncraft had. What it has are more reconfigurable characters. So rather than just being, a blocky Minecraft-looking dude with a gun, you can sort of get down to the nitty-gritty of altering your character's face and what they look like, or choose from a ridiculous number of pre-made characters. For a while, I was a chef with a, chef's hat. Then I was a dude with a wolf head. a chicken head guy who looked like the guy at a Hotline by Miami. And everyone else in the game, though, was just like boring soldiers. They just pick like, I'm going to be the tough-looking Spec Ops dude. You can be a chef, man. Come on.
It's obviously what you want in a gunfight. Let's be real.
It's what I'd want to see. Because it's a first-person game, so I go to all of this effort to picking or making the coolest-looking character, and then I never see him. And I'm just seeing like a bunch of dudes in camo or with, gas masks.
You want to see the chicken heads and stuff.
I want to shoot that chicken head, man.
Yeah.
Some of the promo trailers I saw that it showed that you could craft your own head. You can, like, using like the pixel style of Minecraft, you can kind of craft your own head. Is that something that you're interested in doing, Jody?
Not really, because again, I'm not going to see it. I'm just be doing that for the benefit of some jerk who's shooting me.
I don't know. It just sounds like when I hear that, I feel like I would really love to craft my own face. I mean, imagine the monstrosities, the horrible things you could inflict on other people. Like, I mean,
that could be an excellent tactic. You could be so hideous that other players are like momentarily blinded and confused by your ugliness, and forget what they're doing long enough for you to shoot them.
You can do that in Minecraft though too. Like you can download skins, or you can fully build your own skin based on a template for pixels and. So that's not particularly original either.
Do you, when you're crafting your face though, do you have to stick to like a face template, or can you have like 7 noses and 1 giant eye?
You have to stick to a rough template, but you can modify it enough to put like a gas mask over your head or a hat on top. Yeah, you don't have to pay for hats, so that's something. Hats are,
Good selling point right there. Hats are free.
Hats cost nothing extra.
Jody has just been telling us all about Blockstorm, which is a PC game. Would you care to give us your closing thoughts, Jody?
Blockstorm has some potential. It does have a level editor, and I've seen people make weird levels that are like football fields or the fires of hell, and that's a neat thing. And it's still in early access, so there are still potentially changes to be made before its final release. But the real problem it has is just that there aren't enough people playing it, and with competition that has more unique and interesting selling points. I'm particularly into Ace of Spades, and I'm probably not going to shift from that soon to another game that's Minecraft with guns. I'm not sure it's going to find that minimum level of players that an online game needs to actually be something you can jump into any time, which is what you really want.
Add monkeys.
Yeah, monkeys would be good.
Do you think that there's potential for the game, though? I mean, it is still early access. It has a while to go before release. Do you think with a larger player base and a community around it, could it be a decent game?
If they somehow magic that community together and then they keep making awesome maps, then sure.
Is it buggy or anything? Like, is there anything mechanically wrong with it?
No, I haven't noticed any bugs, and the netcode is quite good, so I haven't noticed much lag, but then it's very graphically low res, so it's going to run quite well on anybody's computer.
Would a soundtrack help sell it to you?
Maybe, because I do love a game with good music, and this has absolutely no music.
Zero
Does it have any
sounds.
sound effects or anything?
No, it has sound effects, just no score.
Right, okay.
Oh.
What do they make guns sound like when you're playing like a super pixelated game? Do they just still sound like normal guns?
Yeah, they still just sound like normal guns.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Do you shoot, like, are the bullets all pixely?
Well, they're invisible. They're moving too fast to see.
Oh, okay.
But the rockets are pixely, well, voxely.
Nice.
Just a big block flying across the sky. The grenades as well.
That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right, well, that's Blockstorm, which is a PC-only game, right, Jody?
Yeah, you can get it on Steam. The early access version is $12.
You are listening to Zed Games, and that was the Angry Birds theme. It was a redone version by a group called Critical Hit.
Now, good luck getting that out of your heads, everyone.
We have a special guest in the studio. His name is Scott Dickson, and he's a filmmaker. Welcome to the show, Scott.
Hey there.
You've finished a movie called Rodney Fickle Online Athlete.
Yep, that's right.
And you filmed it down at the Gold Coast, and it's also been screened at the Gold Coast Film Festival, is
Yeah, yeah. So we filmed a little bit on the coast and a little bit in Brisbane, and we've used sort of a few Gold Coast actors and a few Brisbane actors, so it's kind of split between the two places. We got selected to screen at the Gold Coast Film Festival, which was really great. We had a overwhelmingly positive response, really, which was also really great. And now we're just sort of looking to kind of tour it, I guess, venue to venue and sort of reach out to our audience and build our audience a little bit now.
Cool.
So you'll be kicking it off tomorrow in Brisbane at the new Globe Theatre.
Yeah, that's right. So tomorrow night, 7 p.m, New Globe Theatre. We have a couple of support acts as well. So we're opening the night with two chiptunes artists, Tubers McGee and Slatto. And then we intro the flick, do the flick, and close the night with a band called Baltimore Gun Club, who contributed to the soundtrack as well. So It's kind of a good night, yeah. Yeah.
Is it an ongoing thing, or is it just a once-off?
Once off here in Brisbane at the moment. We'll see how we go. If the results are really good, then we'll do one again straight afterwards, and we'll sort of make our way up the East Coast. We're looking at different alternative venues as well as like universities and that sort of thing, and a limited sort of theatrical run. So yeah.
Now, we've obviously got you here because clearly film is not our big thing, it's games.
Yeah.
So talk us through the film, because obviously it's game-related.
Absolutely. Well, that's cool because games are my thing too, and it's kind of why I ended up making a movie is because I felt there wasn't really a lot of stuff there that appealed to me and my friends and our sensibilities, No one was really making any sort of narrative for video games. There's lots of, like, bad video game movies and adaptation, that sort of thing, but no one was making a story about video gamers. So we made a story about a guy called Rodney Fickle, who's in his late 20s, and he's been working in an office for probably longer than he should have, and he decides to sort of turn that over and chase down the dream of becoming the greatest pro gamer in the history of esports. He's always sort of held back a little bit. He holds himself back a lot, so he's got an older mate who has kind of burned a chunk of time in the office environment that kind of lights a fire under him and tries to get him to realize his dreams.
Is he going after a specific game?
Well, we went through. We're totally independent, self-funded, the whole bit. Like built it on loans and credit cards, and crew of one. We shot, I think, for 53 weekends over 2 years. We got 58 hours of footage. I did post on the flick for another 2 years, and the reason the post took so long is because no one would license their games to us. So we spent like 3 or 4 months chasing down some of the bigger, game devs and distributors and that sort of thing, and we'd always get really good responses up front. Like when you get to sort of the Australasian, like we're going sort of through the Australasian marketing departments of some of these really big game companies, and they'd all come back and say the same thing, which was like, this is a fantastic idea, and before we say yes, we just got to let you know how great an idea it is, and then invariably they would come back and say, oh no, we can't help you out. So I hand animated a video game, and it's a bit of a mock of Call of Duty, Battlefield, and all of those kinds of FPS type deals, and it's called Call of Honor. And yeah, we just I keyframe animated that by hand, so you can sort of see a customized hand-built game in the movie.
Wow, so what you're saying is this film was just really easy to do and you put almost no time and effort into it.
Yeah, that's it. And exactly right. No time and effort. And it was funny, like we got the cast in and I just had no idea what I was in for. So I said to the guys, we'll shoot and it'll take us a fortnight. 58 weekends later or 53 weekends later. Yeah.
Jesus. What kind of research went into this? Is it really just based on a true personal story?
Oh, there's bits of me in both of those two main characters. Like I had worked in an office. I worked for like 7 years in this office, and it was just probably stunting to my growth, right? So there's a little bit of that in there, but it all came about. I was writing video game reviews. We just started to write video game reviews with a bunch of guys, and for some reason, these dudes wanted to write on like pseudonyms. And so that's where the name came from. I wrote as Rodney Fickle, and then I gave myself, the backstory came along, and I always wanted to make movies. I've always wanted to do it, and I'm not a good enough storyteller to tell a 10-minute story. So I extrapolated that out to like 90 minutes, or an hour 48, I think we run at, and yeah, I just spent 2 years convincing myself that we can do it. We can do it.
So have you ever made anything like this before? Any short films or anything?
No, I'd always we tried to make short films, but it was never really. I'd never really set the parameters of like really getting it done. Like it was always chopper shots and all this sort of stuff that just is impossible to do. So I'd never really sort of finished anything. So this is literally the first film I've ever made. Yeah.
Hello and welcome back to Zed Games. That was Daedalus with a song called Clouds from the soundtrack to Nidhogg. We're joined in the studio tonight by Scott, the filmmaker behind a movie called Rodney Fickle, Online Athlete, which is all about a gamer who wants to become a professional esports champion. You said that you filmed this over a lot of weekends by yourself. Was there some guerrilla filmmaking involved there?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was like a crew of one for the most part. I had like a camera on one shoulder and a boom pole in the spare hand, and sort of directing and trying to manage different locations and that sort of thing. And a lot of the stuff we did, on the fly, without the most legitimate of permissions, I guess you could say. My wife would help out. She's kind of producing partner, and she would help out on some shoots and that sort of thing. She didn't have a license for like 10 years. Like I drove around for 10 years and whatnot. And so she finally got her L's, and we needed all this like external montagey city type stuff. And so we've got this, we had this dodgy old Mitsubishi Mirage, and so I'm hanging out the back of that thing, shooting all this stuff while she's driving in her L's, and that's a pretty good example of how we got it done. And it was a case of like no one would give us anything, like no one would really help in terms of getting it done. My boss at the time, I was working in an office, and my boss at the time had asked me to take on some extra work, and I negotiated that we could use the office as a location in exchange for for the extra jobs and that sort of thing. So what ultimately ended up happening is I'd spend like 7 days a week there. I'd be there 5 days a week and then shoot on the weekends. And so that's why it was like a weekend thing. And the two main actors, Isaac Moody and Ben Williams, they also had full-time jobs, and they came on board under the guise of it being, hey, we're going to shoot this in a fortnight. And it was just, I didn't know what I was doing.
Were there any points when you got like frustrated or just wanted to quit?
Yeah, constantly, mostly in post. When it would, because there was so much stuff that was learning as we went. There was a lot of stuff that we ended up having to go back and either pick up or do again and that sort of thing. And yeah, when you kind of can see the finish line, and then that finish line kind of gets moved back a bit further every time you can sort of get a glimpse of it, that's kind of the point where you're like, I'm not sure I can deal with this anymore. And then, looking at it, sort of, combined work and shooting and editing and all that sort of jazz is like a 70 to 80 hour week for, 2 years. There's a certain point at which you're like, I don't know if this is funny anymore. Like, oh God, I hope this is funny. And we had a cast and crew screening, which was really good. And we sort of 30% cast and crew, 30% hangers on, and then sort of another sort of 40% just kind of friends and that sort of thing. But like there was a good chunk of people that had nothing to do with it, and it was like riotous laughter, and that was like the biggest sigh of relief. Went into that like shaking, and then walked out being vindicated, I guess. So how do you personally feel when you see it now, when you see it all done? I've seen it like 700 times, so I don't want to see it anymore. But but no, it's good to see it finished. The thing I like the most is that when we get a room full of people, like it's a real crowd flick, you know what I mean? Like when we get a room full of people, like the laughs just kind of roll on, and there's like it's kind of a double-edged sword, because it's really gratifying to see people like absolutely digging it and like laughing full on. They kind of laugh over other jokes, you know what I mean? Like we've got a pretty high joke per minute count, and they kind of laugh. Like,
stop laughing!
Stop laughing! Everyone, stop laughing! Yeah.
So, because obviously your character is a gamer, do you think that the humor in it as well relates to gamers? Do you have a lot of gaming kind of jokes? Yeah. There's a ton of gaming jokes. There's lots of little, jokes in reference to AAA titles that were huge at the time. Like I think when we were shooting at one stage, there was like, invariably there's a massive Call of Duty game out every year, so there's a lot of prestige jokes and that sort of thing in there. But then we've also kind of kept it accessible for other people, you know what I mean? So it's you don't necessarily need to be a full-on gamer to be able to appreciate the humor in it. Yeah.
Now this is obviously a labor of love. You put a whole bunch of yourself into this film. I'm guessing that at least a part of that love comes from your passion for video games as well.
Oh yeah, unbelievably, yeah.
So what games sort of inspired this film, or that you played growing up?
Well, a lot of the guys that I was working with at the time, like we would play like every night after work. We'd jump on later, be like FPSs and that sort of thing, and that's where the idea kind of like resonated from, like came from. It's that sort of like we just have so many laughs, you know what I mean? Like, so it was just such a big part of my life at the time that I couldn't sort of not make something of that. But like growing up, like one of the first games I remember really getting obsessive about was The Neverhood in like '95 on PC, which was a game by Doug TenApple, the dude that made Earthworm Jim. And I think Spielberg produced it. It's like a claymation thing. It's like a point and click puzzle adventure, and it's just laced with like insanely funny humor. And like that I've played through sort of 6 or 7 times, and then, sort of got into console gaming through the PS. And I think the first console I ever had was a Mega Drive. Yeah. And my old man went on a business trip, bought one back from Singapore, and we were like the first kids on the block to have one. It was like, amazing.
So cool.
It was super cool, yeah.
Did you have Altered Beast on it?
Altered Beast, and
everybody had Altered Beast.
Yeah, and the Batman license game, which I played like ad nauseum.
So obviously there are, a lot of people who feel like pro gaming is dumb or not a real sport, or say that people who play a lot of video games are lazy or whatever. Have you addressed that in the film?
Not so much. I don't want to talk down to people. And I mean, my opinion of that is that like it's becoming bigger and bigger. Like in South Korea, it's massive, $1 million prize pools and that sort of thing. You got US have big Call of Duty events and that sort of thing.
Dota 2 this year,
Dota
the prize
2,
pool's like 10 million or something.
It's ridiculous,
Yeah.
I mean, pretty soon, like a fat bald guy like me is going to be able to win an Olympic gold medal. It's, it's going to be, there's no stopping it. And I think there was passports or something like that were issued to people in the States on the basis that they were going to play there.
Yeah, and they were classified as athletes.
As athletes, yeah, there you go.
So is there any kind of, disapproving family member or angry girlfriend who doesn't want him to do it?
Yeah, definitely. There's an angry girlfriend that's, well, not an angry girlfriend, but a girlfriend that probably doesn't necessarily understand the gaming side of Rodney Fickle's life so much. But that just helps us, I guess, drive tension and that sort of thing.
There is a small esports scene in Australia, although it hasn't taken off quite to the point that it is in Korea or the States. Did you get a chance to chat with any of those guys or consult with them before making this film?
Yeah, we had a chat with some guys about shooting some bits and pieces at one of the bigger gaming conventions that happened on the coast a few years back. I think now they're in Melbourne, Sydney. And we ended up going and shooting a few days at that convention. And so
Expo?
Yeah. I don't know whether you guys can say any of that stuff or what, but yeah, EB Expo. So cruised in there with some camera gear, a little bit on the sly, and some shots are in there.
They have some huge League of Legends stuff.
Yeah.
That goes crazy. That's totally up in Australia. And
it's the only place where I could go at the time and just get a massive crowd of gamers all in the one spot. Everyone was kind of representing. It was rad.
If you personally were going to be a pro gamer, what game would you pick?
I'm going to take the boring route and go, some kind of first-person shooter, because I've always wanted to be John McClane from Die Hard.
It's a good reason.
Yes.
It's a good reason.
And it's like the closest I'm ever going to get. You know what I mean? Like, I'm getting puffed out playing these things on the couch, So, yeah, that's probably it. I guess I'm getting, I'm 32. I'm getting too old to keep up with those crazy fast thumb kids from Dota and stuff.
People in their 30s are a perfectly good age. I'm just saying.
They think that your reflex rate drops and you're out of your pro gaming prime by the time you're 25 or something.
That's it.
That sounds crazy.
But my ability to blame things on lag is at an all-time high.
That's the main thing.
That's it. Yeah.
Cool. Well, Scott, thank you very much for joining us on the show.
Thanks very much for having us.
Just to reiterate, the Rodney Fickle Online Athlete is showing tomorrow night at the New Globe Theatre. So what time should we rock up if we want to go see it?
Yeah, if you want to rock up, come and check it out. 7 p.m. is kickoff. We've got a couple of bands opening, and then we're straight into the movie. So 7 p.m. tomorrow night at the New Globe Theatre. You can still grab tickets at rodneyfickle.com. $10 online, $15 at the door. Incredible value for 3 bands and a flick. So get along.
Yeah. Also, our friend Slato is playing.
Yes.
He's been a regular on this program. He's come in on a bunch of occasions.
Oh, okay, cool.
He's a really
big supporter of our Facebook page.
It is. Oh, right on.
Hello, Slato.
Hello, Slato.
Slato's awesome, and he makes some great music.
Game Boys.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't have the foresight to bring any in to play tonight, which is quite unfortunate. But we make up for it next week. Okay, Slato, so don't get angry.
Before you get on Facebook, man, we're on top of it.
Yeah, so if we want to see the bands, do we have to come before 7 or does it...
No, the night kicks off at 7 and the flick will kick off at 8. So, cool. Yeah.
All right, man. Thanks again for coming and speaking to us today.
No worries. Thanks very much for having me.
Now we're about to get out of here, but we will be back next week at the same time, possibly with a special guest, right, Alana?
Yes, we will actually be having Maud Garrett on the show, who is currently the host of the Hot Hits Live from LA, and also a massive gamer.
Sweet. We'll catch you guys next week.